Well, presenters, welcome back. The NBA is rigged. JimmyXhighroller, I love the title. I gotta watch this. The NBA Finals is really just a matchup between a big face barista and a horse racer. What is that? Pass the ball, go to the moon. MPJ, I love it. Heat in 6. Don't know about that. How would you describe Max Strus' performance? I love trash. Trash only. Exclusive interview with the 23 Boston Celtics. Joker, I paused my game to be here. If the Nuggets win the 2023 championship, they will have beaten 3 play-in teams: the Lakers, the Timberwolves, and the Heat. And a lost cause, number 4 Suns, the weakest ring in professional sports history. Kyle Lowry, don't do nothing but have a big booty and get in the way.
The good old hot take. The necessary evil of the sports world. Through the good ones, the bad ones.
No, slow down.
15 rebounds the good old hot take. The necessary evil of the sports world. Through the good ones, the bad ones.
I don't think Jokic wants or cares to be a star.
We once again find ourselves
No, go back. He'd rather go home, and this is very true. Joker doesn't really care. He doesn't love basketball like some of the psychos like Kobe and some of these other guys. He's very, very talented. He works very, very hard, but he's not one of those psychopaths like Kobe or MJ. LeBron James exists. I've never seen a man carry like this to an NBA Finals.
Bad ones and the downright atrocious ones. We once again find ourselves racking our brains, trying to figure out how some people come up with this nonsense.
It's just Sabonis on a better team. No, he's better than Sabonis.
Some of the hottest NBA takes on the internet. NBA Finals edition. So buckle up. This may be a bumpy ride.
I don't really like Jay Williams. I drink liquid IV all the time, makes you pee like crazy.
Take a look at some hot takes. Per usual, I immediately regretted this decision, but it had to be done. So
the NBA is rigged. Go watch that interview with Tim Donaghy, talking about how he screwed up T-Mac and Yao Ming, and versus the Mavs, the Rockets and the Mavs in the playoffs or something like that.
Now, our first take has been around for decades, and regardless of how insane it is, fans continue to...
It's true, the NBA is rigged. The NBA is rigged.
...say that the NBA is rigged and scripted. And to that I say...
I don't know if it's scripted.
What?
I don't know if the NBA is rigged or scripted. It's just, it's leaning a certain way, and you don't know what goes on behind. Remember, the NBA is a entertainment product. They need eyeballs. So if a game is getting too physical, they're going to call it differently. If a game is skewed in the perception of one way, they're going to try to balance it. I told you there's a big man bias. If you have a big man like Shaq, you cannot call every single foul. If you got a big man like Joker, you cannot call every single foul. He gets probably fouled like 50 times a game. They can't call it. There's unwritten rules. The farther you are from the rim, the more contact is not allowed. So if you're outside the three-point line, they can bump you hard and it's a foul. But once you get inside the paint, they can bump you with that same amount of strength and it's not a foul. That's not in the books.
First of all, reality is stranger than fiction.
Unwritten rules.
Incredible, captivating moments in sports would be to not script them. You think some dude rigged Kevin Durant eviscerating his half in front of tens of millions of people? Or what about the Nuggets just sweeping the Lakers? Wouldn't it make infinitely more sense to allow most series to go into 6 or 7
Turns out LeBron was injured.
We had a very real chance at a Celtics-Lakers finals this season. In what
Turns out Tatum sprained his ankle on his first play of the game.
I wonder what Chris Paul thought when he got the script and saw that Luka Doncic was going to walk him like a dog on his way to his 8th.
Turns out Chris Paul gets injured every playoffs. Now he don't got a job.
Why on earth would the most lucrative franchise in the league have virtually no success over the last 20 years?
Turns out the Knicks, they have no system. They just like getting talented players to get eyeballs and Nick people talk crazy.
Oh, your team is one of the 29 teams that didn't win a championship this season.
Steph Curry, the GOAT.
It couldn't be that they just weren't good enough, it's because the
Wedgie.
basketball overlords didn't have it in the script. The biggest
Steph Curry's
suspicion
crazy
comes
for
from the way
extending his
refs
prime.
officiate the games, handing out more
Embiid,
fouls
the
to one
7'2"
team than
shooting
another,
guard.
making odd calls during
Anthony
crucial
Davis
points
needs
in
his
the
own
game.
podcast,
And
Anthony
believe me,
Edwards.
brothers, I'm right there with you. If I had $1 for
Pat
every
Bev
suspect
extending
call I
his
saw in an
media
NBA
career.
game, I'd have enough money to start my own franchise to complain about. But that's just the nature of sports.
Lucas
Sometimes
Perception's
things
a
go your way,
crybaby.
Sometimes they don't. As much as we would
Damn,
like
Steph Curry
I'd have
flexing.
enough money to start my own
Showing the
franchise
ref
to
he
complain
been
about.
in the weight
But
room.
that's just the nature of sports. Sometimes things go
Ah, dang, he scared that ref. Look at that. What's up, boy?
As much as we would like for refs to be mindless robots who get every call correct,
Hey.
they're human, just like us, and they make
Do you
mistakes.
think Giannis barely gets fouled?
This guy says the NBA is colluding to get the Lakers into the playoffs.
Tampering.
Well, I guess
They
the
always
NBA
tampering.
also colluded to get them swept in the conference finals. I know it's tough to watch your team lose, but of all the excuses we
Can't wait till they start moving NBA games to Serbia. They're taking it to
can
Africa.
make as fans, can
China,
we
Africa,
please
Serbia's
stop
next.
resorting to this one? This
Rigged.
is a bad take. Now, this next take comes
Every
from my
middle
man
school
Bill
kid I
Simmons,
train
who
says
had
everything
this
is
to say
rigged.
about this year's Nuggets team.
This Nuggets team is the best team I've seen in person in 5 years, since the 2018 Warriors. Not just better, but really probably beats anybody the last 4 years.
Now, when I first heard this, I thought that can't be true, but it actually might be. Of course, there's no way to know for sure, but going back through the last 8 teams to make
I don't know, the
NBA
2020
finals,
Lakers.
the 2023 Nuggets do look like possibly the best team. Now,
They
this
were
is
in the
all
bubble,
just an
but
opinion,
they played pretty
I
good.
think this year's Nuggets team would have beaten the 2022 Celtics and Warriors. They would have beaten the 2021 Suns.
I
and
don't know,
the
that Bucks
2020
team was pretty good too, with Middleton going crazy and hitting all the clutch shots.
Heat, and it would have probably taken down the 2019 Raptors.
I don't know,
The two
man.
teams that I think are debatable are the 2020 Lakers and the 2021 Bucks. But if we look at some
AG1 is
The 2019 Warriors was pretty good too.
It delivers daily multivitamin.
postseason metrics from these teams, the Nuggets are on pace to being the
That's
best
when Anthony
team
Davis
since
was
the
hitting
2019
threes.
Warriors. In the moment, it may not feel like it, but this Nuggets team is incredible. They beat a loaded Suns team that had the most lethal two-man offensive game in the NBA. They swept a Lakers team that beat the defending champs, and
Suns
they've done
only
it all
had two
in
guys.
historic fashion. The 2023 Nuggets may just be the best team since the 2019 Warriors. The eye test backs this up, and the stats do as well. Now, this next take comes from a fan who says that if the Heat become the first team to win a championship as an 8th seed, it automatically becomes the greatest playoff run in NBA history. Well, let's look at some of the greatest, or rather improbable, playoff runs throughout the league's history. The 2011
The
Mavericks
greatest one was the Lakers. What was it? They lost one game to Iverson stepping over Tyronn Lue.
are considered by many to have the greatest playoff run of any team. As a 3 seed, the Mavs beat a 48-win Blazers team. They beat the reigning champions.
That Dirk
the
team was
Lakers
pretty
and
good,
Kobe
too.
Bryant. They beat a young 55-win Thunder team, but most importantly, they beat the Miami Heat and their Big Three in 6 games.
The
A
Heatles.
series in which everyone and their mother thought Miami was going to win. But one of
when
the
the team
most
is better than the
overlooked
sum of the
runs was
talent.
back in 1995 when the Houston Rockets won an NBA championship as a 6th seed, currently the lowest seed to ever win a title. If some of y'all aren't familiar with this playoff
Is that
run,
Vernon Maxwell?
it's
That fool-
almost
that
hard
fool's-
to believe what
That
this
fool's
team
out
pulled
saying
off.
some crazy
Because
stuff,
on
too.
their way to a
He
championship
sounds
that
really
postseason,
funny.
Houston beat a 60-win Jazz team with Malone and Stockton, a 59-win Suns team with 2 All-Stars in Charles Barkley and Dan Marley, a 62-win Spurs team featuring the league MVP and
Hakeem the Dream.
and a 57-win Magic
Kenny
team
Knock need
with
the
Shaq
Jet.
and Penn.
Smith.
A few years ago, I made a video on the most difficult
Young
championships
Shaq.
ever won, and the Rockets title in 1995 was ranked number 1. In fact, if we add up the total amount of regular season wins from all the teams the Rockets beat that postseason, we get a whopping 238 wins.
Well, if they say the regular season means nothing, these stats mean nothing because postseason's different.
Pair that with the 2011 Mavericks and
I only
this
play
year's
for
Heat,
rings.
as well as some other metrics, and it's clear that the Rockets had a much more difficult path to a championship. But the 95
Because the number 1 seeds, all the high-ranked teams are out of this year's playoffs.
Rockets did have a solid squad surrounding Hakeem, with players like Clyde Drexler, Vernon Maxwell, Kenny Smith, Sam Cassell. This was a good team. The
Robert
2020
Horry.
Heat, however, have absolutely no business even being in the finals. It's literally Jimmy, Bam, and the undraftables. Even the Mavericks in 2011 are a criminally underrated team.
The
They were a
undraftables.
3 seed going into the playoffs with 57 wins.
They had
an
JJ
awesome
Barea
core
and
of players, and they were
the Jet.
easily one of the best teams
Jason
in the league
Terry
this
going
season.
crazy.
They just had to make it past the heavy favorite to win it all. This year's
Jason
Heat
Kidd finally
team was
learned how to
never
shoot threes.
favored in the postseason. From the very first series, they were expected to get sent home, and 2 of their core players have virtually sat the entire playoffs. So between the 1995 Rockets and the 2023 Heat, it's close. The Rockets had a more difficult path, but the Heat were expected to have absolutely no chance at all. You could make a great argument that if the Heat win a championship this year, it would be the greatest playoff run in NBA history. And so this is a good take. And our last take comes from the legend himself,
Rigged.
Mike Breen. During Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Breen had a take about Nikola Jokic that some people didn't really appreciate. And one of those people was in the booth with him.
Just, you marvel at his complete game. He passes like magic, he rebounds like Moses, shoots like Dirk. Rebounds like Moses? Are you Moses Malone? I know. You want to check yourself?
Now, Mike Breen has watched a lot of basketball. He knows the
He
game.
could be a rebounder.
And as much as this take seems like a reach, is it really? Breen says that Jokic shoots like Dirk, which is about the highest praise a big man can get. And the numbers support this. Well, kind of. On short
doesn't have the
jumpers,
volume.
Jokic is historically efficient. Both Dirk and Jokic are equally as deadly with their long jumpers, and Dirk is a noticeably better three-point shooter. But there's context missing here, because Nikola Jokic only shoots 39% of his shots from outside 10 feet, whereas Dirk shot a whopping 77% of his shots from outside 10
just said,
feet.
volume.
As efficient as the Joker is, Dirk is the gold standard for a shooting big. Breen also said Jokic passes the ball like magic. And sure, Jokic isn't the engine to the most exciting show in all of basketball.
Serbian
but in terms of
Showtime.
moving the rock and getting open looks for his teammates, Jokic does pass like magic. In my opinion, Magic Johnson is still the greatest passer the game has ever seen. Jokic isn't quite that.
Magic,
But if you were to
playmaker,
give me top
entertainer.
5 passers in NBA history, who would be on your list? Magic, Steve Nash, LeBron
Ooh-wee.
James, Chris Paul, Jason Kidd.
Ooh-wee.
Maybe you got John Stockton, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas.
John Stockton had like
Is
5,000
undoubtedly
basic
in this
assists.
discussion. And the last comparison that Breen
The
gave
most
was
fundamental
that Jokic
assists.
rebounds like Moses Malone. And this is where Mark Jackson really lost it, as if the statement was
I don't know if that was Mark Jackson, that was Van Gundy.
because it kind of is. Moses Malone was a 6-time rebounding champion, arguably the greatest rebounder of all time. Moses had an 8-year stretch where he averaged 15
What did he average? 15 boards?
rebounds a game. Jokic can rebound with the best in the league, but he's not quite the board-grabbing machine that Moses was. So
If he was in better
Breen's
shape.
defense, Jokic can almost pass like magic. He's nearly the shooter Dirk was, and he's not quite the rebounder Moses Malone was. So, although it's a bit of a stretch, I do like this take. But unfortunately, that's all the ranking my brain can handle in one sitting. But y'all know the drill. Leave a comment with your hot take, and as usual, the hotter, the better. Or worse. You all enjoy.
The hot take is that LeBron, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, they should all get in their banana boat and all retire together. Until next video, take 14 minutes, 24 seconds, or 1% of your day to get better. Peace.